Hello my dear students, welcome back to the channel, and today we will continue the second segment of the topic interaction of living organisms with each other and with their environment. This topic we are going to discuss today covers syllabus of Cambridge GCE O levels, but today's lecture is also helpful for the students who are taking their exams through IGCSE, Cambridge, edexcel, or they are appearing through AQA or OCR. In today's discussion, we will discuss first about nutrient cycles. You know that chemical compounds in the form of compounds or in the form of elements, they are available on this earth, but they are available in their limited quantity, and this quantity can neither be increased or it cannot be decreased even. Why? Because substances can be converted from one form to another, and we cannot completely eliminate or completely make a new. So this is the law of conservation of mass. So the components that are carried by the living organisms in their body in various molecules that are essential to life. So these component nutrients have been collected from the inorganic environment around these living organisms. And these nutrients are essential to life, but these nutrients are collected in the inorganic form from the environment, and they become the part of organic molecules in the bodies of living organisms. And they play their vital role as structural molecule or as functional molecule. But if this process continues, that elements or the nutrients from inorganic environment, they keep on shuffling up, converted into organic molecules, so there would turn a time that there is no nutrient left on the planet Earth that could proceed towards the organic molecules in the life. So ultimately, this may result the whole life process on this planet Earth to stop. In order to ensure that life process continues, so there is a recycling observed between inorganic and organic environment on this planet Earth. Living organisms are making use of components or nutrients from the inorganic environment, making a part of the organic molecules, and when these organic molecules are of no use, so they are broken down and these nutrients are returned to their inorganic environment. So the two vital nutrients we are going to discuss today, one is carbon, and the other important nutrient we will discuss, nitrogen. So let's discuss carbon as carbon cycle first. Even though we all know that carbon is available in the environment in different forms, but carbon that enters the living organisms, that enters the living system, it is in the form of carbon dioxide. It is the gaseous carbon dioxide that contributes 0.04% in the air. And this carbon enters the living system through plants that are the producers. Plants collect carbon dioxide from the environment through their leaves, and within the leaves, they carry out a process of photosynthesis. And this process results in the formation of primary organic molecule, that is glucose, and then this glucose is converted into large range of other organic molecules like proteins and fats and other carbohydrates and even nucleic acids like DNA and RNA. These nutrients are consumed by the plants in various life processes they carry. And these nutrients are also transferred directly or indirectly in a food chain to the consumers, from plants to primary consumers, from primary consumers to secondary and onwards. So this carbon is shuffling up or is traveling from one organism to another organism within the food chain, serving at various trophic levels. The carbon that is a part of carbohydrates in the plants. So some of the carbohydrates plants consume during respiration, and some of the carbon is immediately returned as carbon dioxide to the environment by the plants during respiration. But through food, this carbon is transferring from plants to primary consumer, and from primary consumer to secondary consumer, and so on. It keeps on traveling. All these animals that are serving as consumers at various trophic level in the food chain, so they are all respiring, and when they are respiring, so they are returning some carbon back to the environment in the form of carbon dioxide. Again, when these animals, they defecate, they excrete, so their excretory material, like urea is present in the excretory material, or their fecal material is also containing some organic molecules. So these are decomposed by bacteria and fungi, and this decomposition results in release of carbon, mainly in the form of carbon dioxide and a little in the form of methane, back to the environment. Similarly, when these animals die, so this also results their decomposition of the body of the organisms, and this also results the release of carbon back to the environment in the form of carbon dioxide. Similarly, when plants die or their fallen fruits are decomposed, so this also results the release of carbon in the form of carbon dioxide in the air. This is how you can see here that carbon entered the living system in the form of carbon dioxide, but this was the photosynthesis. But this carbon has been released back to the environment through respiration and through decomposition. There is another source of carbon dioxide in the environment, and this source is fossil fuel. Burning fossil fuel, that is what we know as combustion, this also releases carbon as carbon dioxide into the environment. And this carbon dioxide is almost non-recyclable. Why? Because fossil fuel, it takes thousands of years, millions of years to develop. As dead animals and plants buried in the ground at very high temperature and pressure and lack of oxygen, so they have turned into fossil fuel like crude oil, like you can say petroleum products, like you can say gas or coal. So when they are burnt, so carbon contents in them, they are oxidized and released as carbon dioxide into the environment. So the carbon dioxide that has been raised by burning of fossil fuel, this is actually alarming because it is increasing the carbon dioxide concentration in the air, and this is actually leading towards greenhouse effect and global warming. These two concepts we will discuss in detail when we will discuss human activities. There is a third segment of this unit. So we will be discussing greenhouse effect caused by carbon dioxide and consequences leading towards global warming. So we will discuss in that segment. So this is how carbon is circulated, and this circulation is important in order to maintain the continuation of life on this planet Earth. Now let's learn about nitrogen. Nitrogen is an important component of nucleic acids, particularly DNA, that is key to life. And nitrogen is an integral component of proteins. And many proteins are serving as enzymes that are catalyzing various vital life-related chemical processes. So without nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen and oxygen cannot contribute to DNA, cannot contribute to proteins. So means life would not be existing like we are observing today. So this nitrogen is entering from non-living environment into living environment. In the non-living environment, nitrogen is available as the key element in various inorganic molecules but this nitrogen is also available in the air in the form of gas, and that contributes 78% of the total air in terms of volume. This nitrogen is not exactly used by the plants or by the living organisms, by the animals, but this nitrogen is to be converted into nitrates, and these nitrates are taken up by the plants. So what do we learn here? That nitrogen enters the living system in the form of nitrates, and its entry is also through plants. Nitrogen is present in the air, that air is present around us, that air is trapped in the soil, that air is dissolved in the water. So this nitrogen can be converted into nitrates in two different mechanisms. One is use of bacteria. There are bacteria, these are known as nitrogen fixing bacteria. These bacteria convert gaseous nitrogen ultimately into nitrates. There are a series of events that take place converting gaseous nitrogen into nitrates. Like this nitrogen is converted into ammonia first, then this ammonia is converted into nitrites, and nitrites are converted into nitrates. And the plants are taking up nitrogen in the form of nitrates that they absorb through their roots from the soil, because these nitrates are present in the water soluble form in the water in the soil. Now this nitrogen can also be converted to nitrates by lightning that occurs during thunderstorm. When there are thunderstorms in the environment, in the air, so lightning does take place. So nitrogen is converted into nitrates, and that nitrate falls to the soil along with the rain droplets, and later it is absorbed by the plant roots. This nitrogen is taken up in the form of nitrates by the plants and is consumed in raising various types of pigments, various types of proteins. And these proteins are not only utilized by the plants, but these proteins are also made available for the consumers directly and indirectly. Primary consumers collect their nitrogen in the form of protein diet from the plants, and secondary, tertiary consumers are taking this protein in the form of muscle mass they feed when they eat on the other animals. When these plants and animals are going to die, so they are likely to be decomposed, and their decomposition results the release of nitrogen in the form of oxides of nitrogen that are later converted to gaseous nitrogen, and it is returned to the environment. Similarly, there is another type of bacteria, and this bacteria is known as nitrifying bacteria. There are a number of different examples of it. So this nitrifying bacteria converts excretory products that contain urea or ammonia into nitrates so that they can be taken up by the plants. There is another bacteria involved in this nitrogen cycle. This is known as denitrifying bacteria. And this bacteria reverses the nitrates back into atmospheric nitrogen gas. Any unused nitrates in the environment, they can be broken down and nitrogen gas is released into the environment. So in the nitrogen cycle, so recyclable nitrogen is being taken up as nitrates by the plants and being returned as oxides of nitrogen during the process of decomposition of dead plants, animals or their parts, or decomposition of their defecated material or excretory material. But again, nitrogen metabolized by certain other bacteria like nitrifying bacteria are converting ammonia or urea compound to nitrates, and denitrifying bacteria are converting unused nitrates back into atmospheric nitrogen. But there is another source of nitrogen or oxides of nitrogen. So this is the fossil fuel. As you know that fossil fuel is made up of dead organisms. So these fossil fuels also contain nitrogen contents. So when these fossil fuels are burnt during combustion process, so oxides of nitrogen are released that are later broken down to release gaseous nitrogen in the atmosphere. So this is about nitrogen cycle. But this nitrogen cycle involves activity of various bacteria. So these bacteria we are going to discuss as separate in the upcoming slides in the lecture we are continuing with. First type of bacteria what we have is nitrogen fixing bacteria that carry on a process of nitrogen fixation. These bacteria convert gaseous nitrogen into ammonia, and we have got a number of examples of nitrogen fixing bacteria like Rhizobium, Azobacter, Nostoc, and many more. Second type of bacteria are nitrifying bacteria. They carry out a process of nitrification, and these bacteria are responsible for converting ammonia into nitrates. And these bacteria include Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter. So you can understand here that in the soil, in the water, or around the plant, so these two bacteria are collectively present. One type of bacteria, or you can say Nostoc, is converting gaseous nitrogen to ammonia, whereas Nitrobacter is converting that ammonia into nitrates that are taken up by the plants. Another type of bacteria that are known as ammonifying bacteria. These bacteria are actually responsible for converting nitrogen-rich organic molecules to their inorganic components and thus releasing ammonia. These bacteria include Bacillus or Proteus, and there are a number of other examples as well. The fourth type of bacteria here are denitrifying bacteria. They carry out a process of denitrification. These bacteria convert unused nitrates into gaseous nitrogen, and the examples include Pseudomonas and Thiobacillus. Another concept we are going to discuss about decomposers. The word decompose means anything that is already composed has to be shattered into its components. So the decomposers are the organisms that break down organic molecules into their inorganic components. So these decomposers include bacteria and fungi, and these decomposers are playing a vital role in maintaining the nutrient cycles, and ultimately they are playing their vital role in maintaining the life processes on this planet Earth. The process is known as decomposition, and the microorganisms including bacteria and fungi that carry out this process, they are known as decomposers. And remember one thing, every of the food chain is ultimately ending up at decomposers, because all the organisms, when they are dying, they are likely to be decomposed. These bacteria and fungi are microscopic organisms, and they are present around in the environment, in the soil or in the air. And these microorganisms break down organic molecules to their inorganic components and release into the environment. These decomposers serve their role by breaking down dead animals and plants, fallen leaves, animal waste, and food materials that are present around. These decomposers are also capable of converting organic molecules into water, into carbon dioxide, and into minerals released when these molecules are decomposed. In a way, you can say that these decomposers are helping us in number of ways. Means these decomposers are helping us, number one, they help in recycling of the nutrients. These decomposers are preventing accumulation of the dead organic matter, because if the decomposers would not have been there, so we would all have been buried with the dead organic matter that would have piled up around us. These microorganisms that are serving as decomposers, they are helping to restore the soil fertility, and that is supporting the plant growth and crop cultivation. And again, as we have been discussing throughout this lecture today, so these microorganisms serving as decomposers, they are playing vital role in the nutrient cycle. And now there is another important concept we are discussing along, because this also involves the role of nitrogen fixing bacteria. There is a particular variety of plants that are known as leguminous plants or legumes. These are the plants that produce their seeds covered in the pods, like beans, pea plants, etc. It has been observed that bacteria are present in a mutualistic or symbiotic relationship with these plants. And these plants have been found growing very healthy and efficiently in the areas, in the soils that are naturally lacking nitrates. But these plants are able to survive in those nitrates, but they can also grow very healthy. Why? Because these leguminous plants, like I have given you the example, bean, peas, cloves, lentils, etc. So these plants have got their roots provided with certain swellings. These swellings are known as root nodules. Nitrogen fixing bacteria like Azobacter, they are living in these root nodules. These bacteria convert nitrogen that is trapped in the air around the roots, means any air that is trapped around the roots that does contain nitrogen. So these nitrogen fixing bacteria, they convert that nitrogen into nitrates. So this increases the soil fertility with nitrates. So there are more nitrates available for the leguminous plants. So they absorb more nitrates, more proteins they produce, and chemical activities are occurring at their maximum rate. More chlorophyll, more new leaves they will be producing. So they are going to grow very healthy. So in a way you can say this nitrogen fixing bacteria living in the root nodules of these leguminous plants, they are helping the healthy plant growth by providing them with the nitrates. And how do they do it? They convert gaseous nitrogen trapped in the soil along with the air into the nitrates, and these nitrates are available for the plants for their growth, for their vital life processes. But in return, plants provide these bacteria with the prepared food like sugars, like amino acids, and the shelter is already there, because the root nodules, they are serving as shelter places for these bacteria. So this was our discussion about nutrient cycle, the role of various bacteria that are involved in nitrogen cycle, particularly decomposers and their role in the environment. And as an add-on, we discussed about leguminous plants and how these leguminous plants are benefiting the bacteria and bacteria are benefiting these leguminous plants. So this is all about the second segment of our topic. Stay tuned for the third segment that will be revolving around the human activities that are having their influence and drastic influence on the environment. We are going to discuss all that in the third segment. Thank you very much.